listening to a podcast created by the Minnesota Alliance for Geographic Education. Our mission is to help you understand your world better through geography. In this podcast, you will hear about informal assessment strategies which can provide instructional guidance towards future teaching in all areas, but in this case, in the area of the 5 themes of geography. This podcast is directed at all geography teachers. Rhoda Hubbard Anderson is a MAGE member and a master teacher who teaches 8th grade global studies at Hutchinson Middle School in Hutchinson, Minnesota. Rhoda has taught for over 15 years and has presented at meetings and conferences on the subjects of professional learning communities and differentiated instruction. Rhoda enjoys traveling and takes an active part in community theater plays. I am Fred Kunze, a member of the Minnesota Alliance for Geographic Education. So, Rhoda, like a lot of teachers, you teach the 5 themes of geography in your classes, right?
I do.
And so everybody has different strategies for teaching that, but today you're going to talk about some assessment strategies after you think you've taught it, get feedback from kids. You want to talk about that a little bit for us?
Sure. Let me just start out by saying that I've been teaching for about 15 years, and when I first started teaching geography, the concept of the 5 themes of geography was, my understanding of it was definitely different than it is now. And when I first started teaching, it was just something to teach. It's 5 nice, neat things, easy to assess. You kind of just dump the information on the kids, and it's. But as you teach longer, you kind of understand how they really can be taught more effectively, and that is as a framework for really understanding geography in the world. And
get some depth in the minds of the kids for understanding geography.
And like most teachers or geography teachers, my goal is to really have kids view the world through the eyes of a geographer. I want them to go out into the world for the rest of their lives and see daily events and read the news and, understand, geopolitical stuff that's going on and understand why it's happening. And the 5 themes then become this framework for understanding those things. And everything that happens, they can dump into one of those 5 themes.
So as you did this for a couple of years, I presume, and then suddenly there was this realization, I got to figure out what the kids know after I teach them this. So what kind of things, what strategies did you use, or are you still using, I assume?
Well, I'm a pretty visual person. I like to teach with slides and with pictures and to have kids analyze those things. And I also try to get kids moving and working in groups. So at the end of the school year, our media center was cleaning out their old magazines, and so I just decided to, take free stuff and figure out how I could, I'll take the free stuff now and I'll figure out how to use it later. And after I taught the 5 themes one year, it seemed kind of the perfect time to see what kids could show, how can they show what they know. And so what I do is I have kids pair up. There's really no rhyme or reason. Sometimes I put more thought into it, but I let them work with a friend. And they just look through magazines, and they need to cut out an image that represents each of the 5 themes of geography. So every kid is going to cut out 5 pictures. And it sounds pretty simple and pretty basic and almost a little elementary until they start doing it. And what they need to do then is say it back to me. Why does this image represent the 5 themes? And
I'll bet this promotes good discussion among the kids. Because I recently was involved with some teachers, and we were trying to develop questions based on pictures that illustrated the 5 themes. And we had a little bit of trouble agreeing because a picture of a theme often has more than one interpretation.
That's definitely
But that's a
true.
good thing when you're working with the kids, right?
I think so. And, they're listening and they're participating in however I present the information. It's often through the use of pictures and short video clips. And they nod and they get it, and they may take notes or, fill out a worksheet or whatever. But when it comes to having to then give that information back to me, that puts a completely different spin on it, and they have to access something that they thought was there, but maybe they didn't really have it like they thought they did. So they have to go back, and they can, of course, look at their notes or the other things that I've given them to help them see. But it's good. Yeah. And the picture doesn't even necessarily have to, there is no really right picture, but it's just the words that they use and the way that they can describe it to me.
Yeah. So you do this, do you start off your year teaching the 5 themes?
I do, and then I refer back to it. Okay. And because, every video clip that I show or story that we read, when it relates back to it, it's just like, hey, here's that concept of movement again, or boy, if that's not human environment interaction, I don't know what is. And I get kids thinking like that.
Sure. Now, I imagine because they work in small groups and they move around and they're searching for things they have to make decisions about. I imagine the kids get very involved and they actually enjoy this activity.
I think they do. I hear them say, this is hard. And I'm like, well, it might feel like it's hard, but that's because you're thinking. And just because something is hard doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you work through it until you get it. And for the kids that struggle, I can do a reteach. This will help me see, well, if a lot of kids are struggling with movement seems to be kind of something that concept, it's not just a car, it's not actual movement, although sometimes it is. It's a bigger, deeper concept than that. I'll have them do a second type of formative assessment, and that is, I call that synthesizing the 5 themes, and that's where I let kids work in groups of 5. And sometimes I'll even do this one instead of the picture geography. It just kind of depends on my my kids that year. And I've pre-written out themes like the universe, or a day at the beach, or SpongeBob SquarePants, or a middle school dance, or something like that. And I'll put it in, a box, and I'll go around and have each group take one. Then their job is to illustrate. I just have a big piece of like butcher paper or construction paper, and every kid has a marker, and they have to illustrate the 5 themes within that overriding concept. So it's pretty fun. It helps them think creatively. It's teaching them, they're synthesizing ideas using kind of a divergent technique. A middle school dance, 5 themes of geography, that doesn't make sense, but they're bringing it together. And
that's movement, right?
And movement is one of the ones that kids really struggle with. And I often then go from teaching the 5 themes of geography into an activity that will then reinforce whichever one a lot of kids seem to have trouble grasping. And for movement, I like to do, it's called Look You're Wearing Geography. And that's where kids check the tag of their shirt. You give them all a little sticker or even just a colored marker, and I've got lots of different maps, and they find the country where their shirt was made. And it's a great activity because a lot of them are like, what is this country? Where's Honduras? And these are words that they're not familiar with, places they've maybe never heard of before. And they can see, look, this article of clothing that was made in another place by people who don't speak your language or believe your God or eat your food, they were constructing this or had some part, and now it's in your closet. And that concept of movement is really powerful. And I can even show them maps that I've made from years gone by to see movement over time, where clothing, used to be 15 years ago kind of concentrated in North America, lots of made in the USA. We see shifts then to Southeast Asia, and then recently to South Asia, for sure Bangladesh, and even Southwest Asia, Pakistan, and kids. Then you can do all kinds of follow-up stuff with that, like what country didn't you see on the map?
Now, when you do this, you don't assign any kind of evaluation or grades. This is for you to do assessment to see strictly whether you're going to reteach or if you need to do more.
Yeah.
So you don't use it as any kind of a formal evaluation activity.
I don't. It's real informal. Kids want to know about points, so I just tell them, it's worth 1,000 points.
All right. Do you have any advice for anybody, just maybe a student teacher trying this for the first time? Make it go easier for them?
Yeah, I would have a bucket of scissors already ready. I would have scissors at every table, even have a sign on your door that say you're going to need scissors in your atlas today. I would have the magazines already divided up. I had a group of the magazines that I got were divided up into hunting, a lot of Sports Illustrated, Time magazine, and you've got some kids that, man, they're just going to want to sit there and page through Ducks Unlimited the whole hour. So you kind of have to divvy it up and
so it's people management kinds of things.
It is, yeah.
Tips, that's good.
Yeah,
right.
to just make it go a little smoother.
Well, all right. I thank you very much.
Absolutely.
You have been listening to a production of the Minnesota Alliance for Geographic Education. Background music is courtesy of Jim Hogue of Decorah, Iowa. Images and sounds from the internet have clickable credit links if your device allows that interaction. The Minnesota Alliance is a non-profit group of volunteer educators who work to promote an enhanced understanding of our world through improved geographic literacy.